to Uncontrollable, the podcast where we break the stigma, get loud, and get real about youth mental health. Truth is that having mental health struggles isn't weird, unnatural, or something to be ashamed of. It means you're human. Mental health affects us all, directly or indirectly. You're not alone.
We're here to remind you that some things in life are out of your control, and that's okay. Sometimes you just have to embrace the chaos. Mental health doesn't have to be scary or heavy all the time. It can also be a very fun and relatable topic. This podcast is packed with stories, tools, and fresh ways to handle all the stuff that feels, well, uncontrollable.
Hi, I'm Madison Mays.
And I'm Sophia Lee.
Brought to you by Cloudcast Media.
Our goal is to eliminate the mystery and myths regarding youth mental health and to answer your most intriguing questions.
Let's talk some fun and explore the uncontrollable. Today we're here with Chris Trondsen, a licensed marriage and family therapist and OCD advocate, and currently sits on the board of directors for the International OCD Foundation. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me back. It's exciting to see you both. Good to see you.
Always.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stigma, but also a lot of myths and sort of beliefs around mental health that aren't necessarily true. Can you talk about us? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding with mental health and the reason why so many people are afraid to talk about it. And I think a big reason that we have so much stigma and misunderstanding is we are very open to talking about physical health. So if one of your friends is missing from school for a few days and comes back with a cast, they might be very direct and open about falling in sports, injuring themselves, and feel freedom to talk about it. But if you have a good friend that might be really struggling with grief over a loss of a family member or experiencing some severe depression, a lot of times people make excuses or not feel as comfortable. So because in our society, we're not feeling as warm and open and comfortable and confident about talking about mental health, unfortunately, that means there's a lot of myths out there, a lot of misunderstandings. And I think one of the things I, as an advocate, you both as this hosting this podcast, if more and more people continue to put out valid information about mental health, talk about it more freely, post about it, more celebrities come out and talk about it. My hope is that people will help kind of stamp out that stigma and we'll get a lot more understanding and education around mental health conditions.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think mental health is such a taboo topic today? Why is it so controversial?
Yeah, I think there's this misunderstanding that people can just try harder to get out of it. So for instance, like we would never walk up to somebody in a wheelchair and say, hey, you need to try harder to walk. Like, why are you sitting down? But if we have somebody who has OCD, for instance, and is really stuck on leaving the room because they're checking, right? There's this idea that they're being mentally weak, or if somebody is feeling depressed and struggling to get up and go to school that day, there's this idea that you just need to push and try harder. But we got to remember the brain is part of the body too, and it's very complex, and there's a lot going on in the brain that negatively impacts us. And it's similar to any other of the body part not working. So like I said, somebody with a broken arm or somebody having heart problems. So I think there's this myth that we got to just like tie our bootstraps and get up and push harder. And I'm hoping people are starting to realize it's just not that easy to overcome any kind of mental health condition. And nobody's deliberately trying not to do anything. They're trying their best, but it takes more than just trying harder or just doing it.
Oh, yeah, I do. So, like, what are some of those myths or, like, some popular ones or controversial ones that you want to debunk today?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of different mental health conditions. So I think with depression, people think it's just a sadness, but in depression, like somebody is really struggling to find any pleasure or happiness in activities that used to mean a lot to them. So somebody can be an athlete and really enjoy sports, but find themselves having zero interest in that. And everything kind of slows down, thoughts, emotions, feelings. And so it's very difficult to get out of bed. So it's not just somebody being sad. I think a lot of times with obsessive compulsive disorder, people think OCD is all about being clean, but there's plenty of different subtypes, and a lot of OCD centers around having a lot of unwanted taboo thoughts. So it could be a fear that you're hurting your friend's feelings, or you're going to cheat on a test, or you might steal something from, your friend's backpack, or that you're not being morally a good person, or, God is angry at you. So there's all these different subtypes. I think with body dysmorphic disorder and body image disorders, there's this myth that people are just wanting attention or they're vain. But it's somebody who has a severe dissatisfaction about their appearance. People with social anxiety, I think there's a myth that they're just weird people, but often it's people that just want to make connections and be accepted by their friends and their classmates. But unfortunately, they have this kind of negative inner dialogue telling them that everybody's staring at them and judging them and whispering about them. So often people with social anxiety will kind of isolate. So I think bipolar disorder, a lot of times people think that the person is going to be 1 minute really friendly and then 1 minute really mean, but that's not what bipolar disorder is. It's where people have these really depressive moments where it's struggling to get out of bed and be happy about things. And then they'll have manic moments where they're hyper energetic. They don't really need food or sleep. They're very focused on something, feeling very elated. So in almost every mental health condition, there's become kind of like a general talk. Like people will say like, oh, I have such PTSD because I didn't get the concert tickets I wanted. But PTSD can be where an individual almost dies or witnesses a death and they have flashbacks and they find themselves not being able to focus on other things. So these conditions are very serious. And as both of you know, because you've been very open on the podcast about your own experiences, they take over your life and are challenging. And I think an overall myth is that mental health disorders are just somebody being weak and not wanting to try hard. It's not that at all. Most people with mental health disorders want to be thriving and living a positive life, but they're really struggling with something that's holding them back.
I think because like of these general definitions of it, like from society, it can kind of take away to what we're actually feeling. Because I remember like when I was younger, especially in middle school, when I was like struggling with OCD, and I was like, yeah, I kind of struggle with stuff like that. They'll be like, oh, you want to organize stuff? And I'm like, no, because my thing was with water. Like I would, every time I went out and in the house, I felt like I had to touch the water. So like it led to my hands being like super shaky and red and like kind of like more into that way, like kind of like it's an obsessive disorder. It's not kind of just organizing something, right? So I'd be like, no, I don't want to organize stuff. So I feel like really talking about it more and like what it actually is kind of will like save the trouble if people be like, oh, like just generally saying what they have, just saying anything. It kind of disregard the people that are actually struggling with stuff like that. So I kind of like that.
100%. I mean, people with OCD, as you know, like you had this experience where you didn't want to touch the water, but you felt compelled. You couldn't focus on anything else. Yeah.
And then like it led to more problems that was like actually injuring my body physically. And like that's why people don't understand how more it can like really get deeper than just like what the hindsight. Oh yeah, I'm bipolar. Oh, I have mood issues. That's not really what it is. So I kind of glad we're having this episode to really debunk what it like really means to be like struggling with something.
Yeah, and if we look at like generalized anxiety disorder, I mean, a lot of people do experience temporary feelings of anxiety, which is valid. But somebody diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, this is where every time they have to speak in front of the class, anytime they have a test, anytime, maybe they're going on a trip or a friend staying the night at the house, or, around their money or finances, or if they get a job, like feeling worried that they're going to mess up. It's like a constant worry. They have a lot of anxiety. Their body is shaky. They're having panic attacks. I mean, so people can experience like temporary experiences of depression or anxiety and things like that. But when it has that D at the end, right, like generalized anxiety disorder or a emetophobia, which is a phobia disorder, right? Or we're kind of putting it too in the category of OCD at times, or a cousin of it. Like all these have that last D, and that D really stands for disorder, which means that, hey, it's really having an impact on my life. So you were just talking about it there, Madison, about having, where your hands are shaky and they're red and they're really hurtful. I mean, that's not just a little like thing you can just kind of excuse or forget about. It's dominating your life. And that's where these disorders really need mental health professionals to work with. But I think more so is we just want understanding and support from our friends, family, loved ones, and peers.
Like, moving off of that, you mentioned how everybody experiences some anxiety. Everybody experiences depression to some level, or they get really sad sometimes. And maybe for those people who experience it in small batches and don't necessarily have a disorder, they can just thug it out. And they can just they can get through it. And then because they're sharing their story, because they feel like they don't have a problem, then there's this sort of narrative of like, oh, like why aren't you normal yet? Like you can just do it like me.
Right.
So do you think it's also important for like if you're a student, even if you aren't like famous or anything, you can just share your story to your friends, and will it make an impact in changing that narrative?
Absolutely. I always think that there is nothing like no advocacy is bad advocacy. So obviously, when we've had Selena Gomez come out and really talk about her mental health, I mean, it's amazing and it's going to reach a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that, for you, Sophia, Madison, like it doesn't mean that your experiences don't matter. And it doesn't mean that you can't make more of an impact, right? Sometimes when we read things online, we kind of scroll, but if one of your good friends sits down and says, hey, like I'm really struggling, here's what's going on, that makes an impact, those face-to-face conversations. And you made a good point too, what you were just saying right there, Sophia, is like, other people may experience little anxiety, or other people may, experience like not feeling comfortable in a bathing suit, or feeling like they ate too much food, so they skip a meal. But when it's not disordered, like you said, they can thug it out. They could kind of just vibe through it and move on. And then unfortunately, they have that same expectation for other people. And it's like, well, I don't like throw up, Sophia. Like, why are you so afraid of it? Just get over it. And so I think people have to understand that even if you experience something on a more mild scale, it is not easy to just get over it on a larger scale. So when people experiencing it do have those face-to-face conversations, often when we know somebody going through something, we are so much more sympathetic because it's a real person we care about. So I always tell people everybody's in charge of their own story, but if you're at a point where you're ready, or at least feeling comfortable and safe to open up to select friends or select peers or select family members, you'll make a huge difference in expanding understanding of mental health conditions.
So like impulse, how people say about impulses and how that can be like kind of within mental health, like people having different impulses. Can you kind of go into that, how it can like kind of negatively affect you?
Yeah. So in sometimes people, you'll see people saying things like, oh, like my intrusive thoughts won. On social media, that was like a big trend. Like, oh, somebody like, I think there's something that Ariana Grande said once, and people are like, oh, her intrusive thoughts won. Those are actually not intrusive thoughts. Those are impulsive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts we find in OCD, anxiety disorders, people experience those. And that's these unwanted thoughts that pop in our head, and we want to get rid of them and we don't like them. But what you're talking about, Madison, is like impulsive thoughts and impulsivity. So in OCD, for instance, people can have an impulsive thought or an impulsive feeling. But people with ADHD also have that, where they'll have like impulses to do something. And so sometimes, unfortunately, people make an impulsive behavior. So a lot of times if we have ADHD, or if there's somebody in our class that has ADHD, they can sometimes get deemed the bad kid because they might shout something out, or they might like act out in class or do something. And it's like later on, they're like, why did I do that? That's not really what I wanted to do. But they experienced that impulsivity that we see in ADHD. So, it can definitely impact people. And a lot of times then it becomes like trends, and we saw that on TikTok a lot. And I think once again, that's the hard thing, is because people really struggling with it don't find it hilarious and funny. Often it gets them in trouble, or it's undesired and unwanted. But that's the hard thing, is a lot of times mental health becomes these trends, and people are getting more disinformation about mental health in general.
That's what I was kind of trying to find, that like how to differentiate it, because people are like, oh, kind of like intrusive thoughts, like, oh, like kind of, because it's such a like not a thin line, but hard differentiating the two.
Yeah. Yeah. What I want you to think about is intrusive is if somebody was intrusive to your house, right? That would be like you're sitting down, you're having dinner, you're enjoying it with your family, and someone just starts banging on the door and talking some mess, right? They're just like saying really negative things you don't want to hear. They won't go away, and you're just like, oh my God, please leave us alone. Like, we don't want you here. That's an intrusive thought. So let's say somebody with OCD is talking to one of their friends, and they get an intrusive thought like, what if I was to just like shout something negative about my friend and hurt her feelings? Well, that person's going to hate that they had that thought. They're going to start to shut down. It's sort of almost the opposite of impulsive. They actually kind of pull backwards, and it's not conducive. There's a term in mental health called ego dystonic, meaning it's not in line with who they are as a person or their values. And so somebody with OCD is going to feel very uncomfortable having that thought. An impulsive thought might be, in a non-disordered way, might be like the teacher says something and like you make or crack a joke, and it's not the right time, but you say it and get a laugh. That's more of like impulsivity. But people with ADHD, like I said, sometimes can be impulsive. And we, sometimes people with autism, for instance, especially younger, I have a nephew with autism, and a lot of times he had these impulsive outbursts and stuff. So things can be kind of like silly and funny, but when it crosses a line and it's getting people in trouble, or they're doing actions that then they regret automatically, that's when we know that the impulsivity is not helpful. And that's when people are struggling. So then when they see those things on social media, they feel really sad because they're like, hey, people are kind of cracking jokes at what I'm struggling with. And I think that's what becomes hurtful.
So you give to maybe teenagers or people in our generation who feel like maybe it's okay to make a joke, like it's not so serious. Like I can say if I feel like really clean today, or if I really want to be organized, I can be like, oh, I'm so ACD. Like what do you say to those kids? Because I think it definitely does have an impact, especially when it's so culturally acceptable right now.
Yeah, when I wrote my thesis in graduate school, one of the parts of my thesis was looking at how just the general public talking about OCD and mental health is actually impacting the recovery of people with mental health disorders negatively. And what they found is that it's not only the general public that is influenced by statements like that, like, oh, she's so bipolar, or, oh, I want to be clean, I'm so OCD today, or like, oh my God, like, I'm so suicidal because my boyfriend said he didn't like my shirt. Like when people make comments like that, it doesn't only affect teenagers and like the public, but it actually influences doctors and medical staff who may not have a clear understanding of mental health conditions. And what they found is some of those more stigma, some of those disorders that are often like people are like, oh, I'm feeling so depressed. Even medical professionals misdiagnose people because they didn't have a true understanding of the disorder. So in OCD, for instance, general medical personnel are often misdiagnosing OCD 60 to 80% of the time. And that's usually who somebody with OCD first sees. They see their general practitioner, their doctor. And the reason that they were misdiagnosing it is because those medical professionals were like, I don't even know what it is. I thought it was an organizational disorder. So even our medical professionals are misunderstanding disorders because of the way that we talk about it. So I don't want people to ever feel shamed or guilty. But I think if you do have a friend or somebody that keeps using mental health disorders incorrectly, maybe in private so they don't feel embarrassed, you sit them down and say, hey, look, I know you didn't mean anything hurtful about it, but you keep using like, oh my God, I forgot things, I'm so ADHD. That's not really what ADHD always is. It's a difficulty to focus and pay attention and really struggling with academics and remembering things and bringing things to school. So could you use a different word? Like, oh, I'm so forgetful, or, oh, I need to plan better so I don't forget it. So I think having those heart-to-heart, non-judgmental, educating conversations can help people stop using them incorrectly. And then people like myself, like you, etc., we can get the true meaning of these disorders out there, and then people can have a truly understanding, appreciation, and clarity on what these mental health disorders really are.
Even if it be scary, like it's always okay to kind of call somebody out in the moment, because there's going to be a lot of times in your life it might not be about mental health. Like maybe you don't even really care about mental health, or it's not affecting you, but I mean, if you like speak out for each other, then it helps everybody.
I agree.
Yeah. And we do it in other areas. I mean, sometimes people make hurtful statements about, women, or people make hurtful statements about marginalized groups. And I think that it can always be nerve-wracking to say something. But I think when people know, hey, that's not okay, or at least it's not okay around me, I mean, I think that's empowering. So if people are misusing terms in mental health, if we start to educate people, the hope is that people will start to have a better understanding of what things really are.
So do you know, kind of staring a little bit, so a lot of people do struggle with like health disorders and eating disorders. Like, do you know more about eating impulses and kind of the science behind that?
Yeah, so when somebody has an eating disorder, there's different types. So anorexia nervosa is the one that people most commonly know, and that's where people start to control their caloric intake and really restricting eating with a goal of losing weight and going down sizes in clothing or stepping on a scale and having a lower number. We also know that there is bulimia, and that's where people do purge and throw up to try to lose weight. There's binge eating disorder, where people will usually restrict their eating during the day and at night be so hungry that they can consume 1,000 calories in a few minutes. Sometimes that does come with purging. And the problem is we have a society that really pressures people to look a certain way. And I would argue that for young teens, it's getting worse and worse. And so there's a lot of information out there about trying to lose weight. We know that by age 12, girls are already considering to go on their first diet. And there's a lot of pressure on men as well. And also being more muscular. So on TikTok now, there's like gym talk, and people are like starting to lift weights younger and younger. And sometimes they don't have good instruction and they're damaging their body. So when people correlate being thin and losing weight with happiness and acceptance, especially when you're in high school, right? You start to look at the kids that are popular, and typically they look a certain way. There's this desire and this pressure to look the way that they look so you can be accepted and people can like you. And so people will start to manipulate their food intake in a way to try to lose weight, but it becomes really damaging to the body and can cause damages in just your internal organs. People struggle to concentrate, lack of energy. People become dizzy. They can't remember things. So unfortunately, there's that impulsivity you're talking about with binging. People are so hungry, they keep eating, and the food tastes good, so they keep going because they've been restricting all day. And it's 10 o'clock at night, they've only had 400 calories when somebody your age should have at least 2,000. And now, their body is so desperate, it's going to impulsively eat and eat and eat because it's been missing food. So I know it's difficult to ignore and not pay attention to some of that messaging that we get from advertisements and everything, but really, really making sure that you're not doing something unhealthy to your body and getting mental health treatment if it has crossed a line and you're at a point where it's unsafe and it's hard to stop controlling what you eat or purging.
Also with that, like seeing influences of, I want to look a certain way on social media, although there's been a rise, I think, in a lot of body positivity, there's also been a rise in like anti-body positivity almost, like, just work out more, or, she looks so fat, or, which actually is not a bad thing. And by making it seem like a bad thing, you keep feeding into these ideas that perpetuate eating disorders. But
right.
Yeah, like it's usually a lot of men, I think, who are like, why is she talking about this? Like, why are we doing body positivity? Just work out, just lose weight. And weight loss is really not a straightforward process for anybody, really. So can you talk about like how that talk around body positivity is affecting eating disorders?
Absolutely. I mean, you nailed it on the head. I've never understood. It's hard for me to understand the motive behind it because I've never been that kind of person. But I love that people are talking more about body positivity because there isn't a standard healthy size, right? Different cultures, different races, different ethnicities. So for instance, somebody who is an athletic swimmer is not going to have the same body type as a South Korean K-pop idol, right? Like those are just not going to be the same body types. And one isn't better or worse than the other. Like we're all born with certain bodies. And, we have doctors, we get checked up and there's certain health. But unfortunately, we've now created this idea that a man and a woman has to look specifically like this in order to be healthy. And so when people who are healthy that just have a different body size come out and say, hey, I'm healthy, I don't want to change my body, I'm happy with my curves, I'm happy how we look, I personally think that we should be celebrating that because people start to be called in instead of pushed out, and people start feeling happy and confident in how they look and supporting each other in different sizes. But you're right, there is this weird negative culture that I'm not part of, so it's always hard for me to understand, but people just don't want to let people live and be happy. And it's a lot of men, and I'm a man, I could say that, and they'll go on and you see their horrible comments of like, just get in the gym, stop being proud of being fat, we're such an unhealthy culture and you're making it worse. So unfortunately there's just this kind of counter push, trying to push it. But my hope is that the positive voices will rise above. And I think anybody listening to this or watching this, one of the things that you can do is just making sure to not engage in that kind of behavior and celebrating and supporting people that are taking that risk and putting themselves out there and unfortunately making themselves susceptible to hate.
I feel like a lot of times with society, especially like with the rise in like surgeries and all that, a lot of people kind of feel pressured because it's like some men, or they'll push, oh, you should like have this specific body part, and then it gets done, and they're like, oh no, I want an all natural woman, and you can get it, or no, get in the gym. But like some people just can't, like their body just can't take that. Their body just can't do that. And I feel like it goes deeper into a lot of unhealthy behaviors or getting stuff done, and like you're putting whatever, or people go to foreign countries and not know what they're putting. I see those accidents all the time. They'll go to foreign countries for cheaper to look a certain way, and they're ultimately making themselves unhealthier. So I feel like what this is.
Yeah. Madison well said. I saw a TikTok video of a guy that went, I forget what country he went to, but he went to get those veneers, and they did it incorrectly. And underneath the veneers, his teeth and gums were rotting. So the veneers fell out, and he had like rotting gums and had to get all this surgery. There is such a pressure to look a certain way. I work with clients with body dysmorphic disorder and other body image disorders. And there is a constant want and need for plastic surgery, for filler, for Botox, for restricting food, getting on Ozempic, getting, hair transplants from Turkey, or going to South America to get veneers. And there's such a desperation to look a certain way. But what we have to remember is over time, beauty ideals and standards change, and they change in different cultures. So if you're always kind of chasing the latest thing, that's why certain, celebrities like the Kardashians will get something enhanced, and then they take it out, and then people who got it and they did take it out. I mean, I always tell people like there's no winning. You can't make everybody happy. People have different types. Beauty is subjective. And so I always tell people, embrace your natural looks. You were born a certain way. You have your mom and your dad's DNA. They're beautiful people, right? You have a whole generation, a history and an ancestry of people that were proud how they looked before plastic surgery existed. And so I know it's challenging to tune out those messages, but I always find that people that embrace themselves and really just, enhance their looks without crossing a line typically are happier. Other people that are chasing different surgeries, it's never enough. And then you see, I'm sure you both have seen it, you see those TikTok accounts where somebody doesn't even look human anymore because they have fake lips and fake eyes and fake nose and fake hair. And it's like, they don't even look real. They look plastic. So
you're still getting disapproval. You'll still get disapproval. Like,
these haters everywhere.
Right, you'll still get now you're doing all that, but they'll hate on the natural bodies, they'll hate on the fake ones. That's why I feel like it's just like really living authentically and being like proud of who you are regardless of it's a large role to take in.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what you said about like it's your mom's DNA, your dad's DNA, like I think a lot of people, I mean in any generation really, like the way that their moms talk about their own bodies, how sometimes they get like very insecure. And they say, oh my gosh, should I lose weight? Like, do I look good in this dress? But then, like, their kids are hearing all of that throughout the time that they're growing up. So, it's just crazy to think. Like I would be so sad if somebody insulted my mom's body or my dad's body.
I don't even think it's just moms, too. I feel like a lot of people fall into what their families say. Like, some older people, too, are very judgmental. Like, someone, like, old. Like, I think they play a role into a lot of mental health family. They'll be like, oh, you're... Like, even when I was growing up, oh, like, you're eating a lot. Oh, you're eating too much. And I don't think... even though they might not mean no harm by it, I don't think they play into how it might affect them growing up later. And that's why a lot of people start developing it. Like, those tiny comments mean a lot.
Yes, especially from your family. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I hope people watching this, I mean, I know a lot of people your age are going to watch this, but if they watch it with their families, you both are absolutely correct. Like parents, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, right? Like not only do you have to be careful of what you say to other people, because obviously, if you're telling your young little niece, like, hey, don't get seconds, you don't want to gain weight. I mean, especially when we're younger, we're way more susceptible to that messaging, and we look up to our older family members, and that stays in our mind. And then next time we go to get something, we're like, oh no, I'm not going to get it. I don't want to gain weight. But also, like you were saying, Sophia, like parents have to be careful about how they talk about their own appearance. Because if they're looking in the mirror and like, ooh, I look terrible with these wrinkles, or like, oh, I ate too much on Thanksgiving and gained weight, kids are picking up on that. And then they're going to have that inner dialogue, and they're going to get nervous about gaining weight or getting wrinkles. And so, I tell parents, like, kids are sponges, man. They are sponges. They're learning so much, and you have to be careful about how you talk about appearance, both about yourself and about them and about how it is in the household. So I think parents don't always realize that, and family members, the impact. It's going to be hurtful if you tell somebody, hey, slow down on eating at a family holiday, or like you see, a lot of my clients will tell me they'll see a family member they haven't seen for a long time and they'll be like, oh, you've gotten fat. What happened? And I'm like, no, that's horrible. Don't say that to a child, right? Or to somebody. So people just have to be cautious about how they speak to their loved ones.
Just like complimenting people for certain things. Like, even though it doesn't seem like it can be harmful. Because, like, imagine if somebody is struggling with an eating disorder and they lose a lot of weight, like a scary amount of weight for whatever time span they lost it in. And then all the family's like, oh my gosh, you look so good. You lost weight. Oh, you look great. And then it keeps, like, perpetuating these things. Like, I think people can look great no matter what size they are. And even though it's nice to compliment people, there are ways to do it, like, kind of more healthily.
Like, respectfully.
Yeah, correct. If you're always complimenting people on lose weight, what they learn is, oh, losing weight gets me attention and gets me acceptance. And then they become desperate, more and more desperate to lose weight. So, like you were saying, I always talk to my clients. I never make it about losing weight or anything. More so, we know that movement and exercise and engaging in athletics that we enjoy, hiking, walking our dogs, pushing our little niece in the stroller, is good for your mental health. When we get in movement, our brain releases endorphins, which is like our own body's natural upper. And, I compliment clients on that. It's like, oh, it sounds like you're engaging in like nature and you're hiking and you're kayaking and you're enjoying it. And I talk more about that because I know it's good for mental health. They get to make connections because they're out hiking with friends or they're in nature. And I never make it about weight loss because, like I said, if we keep complimenting weight loss, it may seem harmless. But ultimately, then people just think, oh, the only way to get acceptance is to lose weight. So, we always have to be kind of cautious. We just don't want to reinforce that. And also I tell people, okay, if you want to compliment your loved one because they were having some health stuff like diabetes, they've lost some weight, also sneak in some compliments about things that have nothing to do with appearance. So about how kind they are, like, thank you for, picking up my granddaughter today or whatever it might be. So making sure that we're championing other aspects of that person.
That's it.
There's no clocks in here.
I think it's game time. It's game time. Would you like to play a game today, Chris?
Yes, I love these games, so I'm super, super excited.
Okay, so today we're playing overrated versus underrated. So we're gonna
say,
and then you're gonna tell us if you think it's overrated or underrated.
Okay. Ooh, this one's risky. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, starting strong, Star Wars.
Ooh, okay, this is going to not make me any friends. I think it's overrated. I know, it's not going to make me friends. Okay, I do like Star Wars. I went to Disneyland and went to the Star Wars world for the first time, and it was actually cool and secret. You get a beautiful view of the fireworks if you stay there. But I've never been the kind of person that like buys a lightsaber and like dresses up and like attacks like friends in the streets. So I think some people go hard, and props to them. I never want to judge, but in my life it's a little overrated.
Okay,
I will say Baby Yoda is cute though. Baby Yoda is cute.
That's
I didn't even, you know what? I've never even watched. I think I've tried to get into Star Wars, but I just could never get into it. And as a person who really loves space and stars, I like watch planet movies all the time. Like even Interstellar, like I don't even pronounce it right. Interstellar, right? But
yeah, Interstellar's good.
Right, but I like space movies, all that. But for some reason, I can never get into Star Wars. I can never. Maybe I could. Maybe I should try to sit and watch it. But yeah, I've given it like 10 minutes. I was like, nah, I'm fine. Yeah, large fan base though. No hate though. I respect the culture.
I know. Don't come for us. No,
I get it. Especially with like the sequels and prequels.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. Let's see, next one. Okay, next one is also kind of a movie character thing. Batman.
Okay, y'all. I'm gonna say it is underrated. I love Batman. I am a fan. When I was a kid, I wished I was super rich, not for like everybody wants to be rich, but also so I could get all those gadgets. I used to think the Riddler was so cool, and I used to try to guess the riddles because I thought like I gotta be smart. So I'll say Batman. I love Batman in my life. I was Robin for Halloween one year when I was a kid. I was the Riddler in 8th grade, and I won my school's costume contest. So I'm gonna ride hard for Batman. So I think it's underrated. Y'all can hate it. It's okay. I won't be mad. But
You can't choose. Like, so you would choose Batman over Superman then?
for sure. You know why? Because although I love Superman and the new movie is a good movie, it's just like Superman's always going to win. Like you never think, Batman, there's like a chance he's not going to make it because he's just a dude in a suit. But Superman's never going to die. I mean, he's like indestructible. So Batman, there's a little bit more risk there. So I think I go hard for Batman. Ooh, there was a poll the other day. I'm going to have to go hard for Henry Cavill. Like, I'm going to say you said Batman. Sorry, I thought you said Superman. Oh, my favorite Batman. What's dude's name? He's a little crazy. They caught him off camera yelling at people. Christian Bale. He was good. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Robert Pattinson. Just because
Yes. Yes. I'll be honest, I was a little bit nervous about him because I only knew him for Twilight, but he killed it at Batman. So I agree with you. I'm gonna change my answer to Robert Pattinson. The only one I can't vibe with is what's the one that was married to J-Lo? Ben Affleck? No. Yeah.
That's cool. I like Batman. Most of the time, Batman movies are pretty good. Like Superman could be sometimes a hit or miss, but I think most of the time, or like Joker is
always
Yes, agreed.
Next one. So you've seen this trend lately, the little boo-boos. The charms, what do you think?
Okay, so one of my best friends goes hard for Labubu. So if I say anything negative, she's going to come to my house and get me. So I'm going to be safe on this one and say I love them and they're underrated. Because my homegirl, it's funny, my homegirl was a hater. And then like something clicked and then she loved it. And then her daughter loves it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to let them have their thing. But I will say, Pop Mart, where you can get them at, that store goes hard. They have some really cool stuff in there. So I'm not a Labubu myself, but some of the other items that they sell at Pop Mart, different figurines and stuffed plushies and stuff are pretty cool.
Controversial, but I think they're so ugly. I'm sorry. I think that
sister hates them.
Bro, they're so ugly, and it's like, bro, they are. I think it's just because of everyone's following a trend, and it'll be gone within a month, and it's gonna be, and then for the next 20 years, it's gonna be sitting rotting aside. I feel like this is so no shade. Everyone can have a no, but I just feel like they're personally kind of ugly, and I don't like. Well, I already don't like dolls, and they're like this monster-looking dolls, and I don't like the material. Yeah, and then people pay like $100, and they make them in China, and they make them in shops in China for like probably $20. So, like, but yeah, that's
hot take.
That was a very hot take. They're just there, but we'll see. But I mean, everyone could do what they like, but don't put it in my face. I have a friend; she's always in my face. I don't want to look at it.
I feel you're right, though. I feel like in 2 years, people are gonna be like, "What the hell's a Labubu?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why is it here? And it'll be replaced by the next.
So
correct.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Always have I don't have one yet, but one day
It's coming.
Mm-hmm. This one. Okay, let's see. We have some pretty good controversial ones here. Should we do? Let's do Stanley Cups. What do you think about those?
Oh, those are overrated now. I don't have a Stanley Cup. These were hot for a minute. What are these called again? The Hydro Flask.
2016, right? No,
yeah.
Like in middle school for us.
I got mine back in the day because I like to hike. I like to go outdoors, so I have it for water. And then they became like real big, and people would see me drinking, and they're like, "We love your Hydro Flask." But then people moved on to Stanley's. I think it's overrated. There's going to be some new water bottle that somebody's going to want in like 5 months. Plus, Stanley Cups are usually bought by like construction workers that like drink it all day. So that's always how I correlate it. But I'm glad people are staying hydrated. But I think the bottle itself is a little overrated. People are ready to fight in Target. Yeah, no, it's cool to have one and to drink, but I guess why I say overrated is the people fighting each other in Target. That's too much for me.
Oh, it was never that serious. Oh, yeah, I seen during Black Friday last Christmas, I went and gone.
Damn.
Yeah, people were when it like first came out and it was all over TikTok, all over everyone. It was like people were getting new colors and all that. Like it was cool to have. Like it's like I'll say it's cool to have, like especially around the house, like just on the run in your car. It's not bad. But the way people are ride or die for it is crazy. Yeah, it'll probably, like you said, it'll probably get taken over.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. I think, like I said, I'm glad people are getting hydrated, but the whole ready to like box it out in the middle of a Walmart, like that's too much for me.
Okay.
Don't do that.
What about Starbucks?
Oh, okay. That's definitely a controversial take. I'll say politics aside, like I ain't gonna lie, I have one right now. My office is surrounded by 4 Starbucks, so it's the only way I can grab. I drink green tea and matcha green tea. My mom's a registered dietitian, so she's always talking to me about new ways to be healthy, and green tea and matcha is like really good for you. So outside of politics, because I know some people aren't vibing with Starbucks right now, I'd say it's definitely overrated taste-wise. Other places have way better green tea and matcha, but the convenience is why I go. So I think the convenience is key, but I think it's overrated. And when I don't go to Starbucks, I try to go to like Phil's Coffee. There's a lot of mom and pop places, and their green tea and matcha is always better.
I have friends that really, ever had Better Buzz?
Ooh, no, that sounds good. What is that?
Yeah, Better Buzz is going crazy right now, and it's good. Like I had a friend that bought me a drink there, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I think it might be a little healthier than Starbucks. You should try it though, Better Buzz.
Okay, I will try it.
Yeah,
I'm always looking for something else because Starbucks is not the greatest. It's just
right.
convenient.
I'll try a frappuccino from there though. But matcha kind of tastes like grass. Like I've been trying to get into it, but it just tastes like grass to me.
It does taste like grass. You're right. Growing up with a dietitian as a mom, like my mom was always trying to put like healthy stuff in normal food, so I'm used to it. But if I didn't have that, it would taste like grass to me for sure.
Taylor Swift.
Ooh, I'm a Swiftie, so I'm going to say, well, I wouldn't say she's underrated, but I wouldn't say she's overrated. I will say there's better vocal. You know what it is about Taylor? She's good all around, because there are way better vocalists than her. There's better songwriters than her. There's better performers. Like, no hate, but I'd much rather go to a Beyonce concert than a Taylor Swift concert. But I'll say, like, overall, like, she's just so strong. I will say there's a lot of videos out there of her being so kind to her fans, and that kind of is, I'm a nerd for that. Like when celebrities are like really cool to their fans, I love that because you can, it's like I always watch those videos like cry, like the Make-A-Wish where like Taylor will show up to a hospital. So I'll say she's a good person. She's all around good. She's not the best, so I wouldn't say she's overrated, but I wouldn't say she's underrated.
She's fairly rated to me. Like she has a lot of haters and a lot of people that going ride or die about her. So like,
yeah.
I would say she's probably, she's fairly rated.
What's y'all's favorite Taylor song? Out of curiosity.
Trouble. And
I like
summer
Trouble.
Summer camp when I was little, like it was just straight Taylor Swift or like Bad Blood, like so like her old ones is what I know. Like I don't think I've listened to her in like maybe unless she came on the radio in like maybe 5 years. Mm-hmm. But like when I was younger, like I'm like Trouble.
Yeah, that's a good song. That's the era that I like the best too.
That era where like when you heard her voice was summertime. Her voice was summertime, like little kids in summer camp. Yeah, her voice was there, so I'll give her that.
Yeah. Oh, me?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know what it's called, but it's like we can leave the Christmas lights up till January.
I have no idea.
Ooh, I'm not enough of a Swiftie to know that one. I'm sorry.
Someone knows that one.
It's crazy because on my field hockey team, there were a couple girls who were diehard Swifties. And, like, the culture, and, like, it was almost like a cult for them. Like, it was actually scary. But I have to have, like, mad respect for her if she can, like, make people like this about her. So, yeah, I say fairly rated.
My bop is Wildest Dreams. That's my favorite song. Wildest Dreams. It's a little bop. But, yeah, the era y'all are talking about, that's my era, so.
That's good. All right, so that's the end of our mini game segment. Thank you for playing. So we'll just have a couple more questions for you. We want to start with our myth one. Yeah. So just to kind of debunk some of these myths.
I mean, dang, we kind of already went over some of these, but let's go to this. Myth or fact, people with eating disorders all have a certain body type.
Oh, that's definitely a fact. Sorry. That's definitely not a fact. That's definitely a myth. No. No. I meant to say that's definitely not a fact. No, that's definitely not a fact. That's definitely a myth. Eating disorders can impact anybody from anywhere, any race, culture, body type, etc. I think there is this myth that only like really big people get an bigger sized bodies get an eating disorder, and then they start it to be healthy and then lose all this weight. Or some people think only really thin looking people must have an eating disorder. Eating disorders can affect all different body types. And so that's another big stigma. And when we see movies and films with people with eating disorders, it's typically almost always a white woman who is really thin. But there are people in all different size bodies that are engaging in eating disorders, and it affects people of all different socioeconomic classes, different ethnicities, race, geographical locations. So that's definitely a myth. And I think it's one of those things because of movies. People think that only really thin white women have eating disorders, but it's impacting a lot of different people.
This actually kind of goes into our next myth or fact, but myth or fact, only girls can have eating disorders.
That's a myth as well, and I'm not going to mess up on saying that again. But no, it's definitely a myth. I've worked with clients that are definitely, male, obviously gender non-conforming as well. But no, I mean, there's a lot of young males really impacted by body weight and are experiencing eating disorders. Sometimes it can move into muscle dysmorphia, where the focus is a lot more on being muscular, but they still get compulsive with their eating. They're only eating foods deemed healthy. They're not eating certain types of foods and neglecting foods. But there's also a lot of people who are males that are having eating disorders and want to be thinner. So I think that's why a lot of times there's a lot of shame and stigma for men experiencing eating disorders, because it's typically considered a female disease or disorder rather. But no, there's a lot of men impacted by it. And that's an additional level of stigma sometimes. If you don't kind of fit the stereotype of what that disorder is affecting, people are afraid to come out and say it. But there's a lot of middle school and high school boys that are starting to show even younger signs of having eating disorders.
People with obsessions or compulsions can just stop their behaviors whenever they want. Like they're being dramatic.
Yeah, that's definitely a myth as well. We know that what happens is all of us in our brains, we have the amygdala. There are these two little almond-sized pieces in our head, and they're overactive for OCD. And so the brain is overestimating danger. And so if all of us think about this, if you go to cross the street and you look and a car is coming, you don't have control. Your body naturally moves out of the way to be safe. And that's what happens in OCD, is people feel compelled compulsively to do a behavior. And it's almost like, the best way I could describe it, it'd almost be like if a car is going to hit you, walking into the car. Like that's almost impossible to do. And people with OCD, it's almost impossible without treatment to stop when they want. So that's why a lot of times when family members are yelling at them to stop doing something, they can't. And it just creates a level of shame and guilt that they feel, because they can't just stop. Their relationship with food has changed, right? So like most of us think of food as like celebratory. We're going to eat this because it's our birthday. Or we think of it as fuel. Like, oh, I have to study today. I'm going to be out all day. I need to get food. I need to get energy in me. But people start to feel repulsed and feel guilty and shameful for eating. So when they go to eat food, even sometimes if it's like a bagel or a really small amount of food for a whole day, they feel so much disgust in themselves, judgment, shame. And so their relationship with food has changed to where they almost punish themselves by eating. And so when somebody just tells them to stop and to eat more, it's almost like as they eat more food, they feel even more guilt and more shame and more disgust. And so if it was that easy to just stop, they would, but they can't, especially when it's become a disorder without interventions and treatment. So it's never helpful to tell somebody with the eating disorder, just eat more. It's much more complex than that.
And kind of, this isn't a myth or fact, but like kind of question, do you believe that any disorders are kind of like curable, quote unquote, curable, or can be solved? Like, what's your take on that?
So when we look at the term curable, right, it's difficult because when we think about curable, we think about something as like completely gone from us. I think people can get into a recovery phase. So there's a lot of people that I work with, and there's a lot of people in my personal life that have had really difficult eating disorders and consider themselves in recovery. So they're eating foods, they have a better relationship with food, they recognize that food is a necessity, it's energy, it makes them happy, they celebrate, they eat what they want. But I think people that have gone through something really tough always got to be a little bit cautious to put our guard down. But here's how I describe it to people. Most of the time, if you have an eating disorder or OCD or major depressive disorder, that is like 95% of a lot of the problems that you're experiencing. What usually happens when people are in recovery, it flips. It might only be like 5% of difficulty. And instead, like your boyfriend not calling you back, or traffic, or an unfair teacher, that becomes more of a problem in your life than the eating disorder or depression. So I think we're not at a point where we could say the word cure, because it's not like we can go in the brain and take something away. But there's people that are in great recovery places. They feel it's much more behind them. They're thriving in life. And maybe every once in a while they get a thought or a feeling, but they're immediately able to address it and move on to the point that they almost don't even feel like it's an impact in their life anymore.
Is having OCD or having a disorder the same for everybody? Does it look the same for each person?
Yeah, no, a great question. It's definitely a myth that all disorders are the same for everybody. So let's look at, autism, right? Autism spectrum disorder. People with autism, some people like my nephew can speak and talk. Some people with autism are nonverbal. With major depressive disorder, for some people, it comes out as more like sadness and isolation. For some people, depressive people don't realize this, but it can come out as anger and frustration and irritability. Some people with OCD, it's more on the mild when we look at severity levels, and they're able to function, but they have a little bit of difficulty. And then some people get hit really hard, and it causes them to become housebound and not be able to function. So all of these disorders may have a certain criteria. When we look at the DSM, which stands for Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, if you look up any disorder, there's going to be a certain set of criteria people have to meet. But think about it. Somebody with PTSD because they had an abusive, partner who was harming them versus someone who has PTSD from being part of, the military and engaging in war, their experience with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, is going to be so different. So that's why for people that think they might have a diagnosis, although the criteria is helpful, it's good to look up people speaking about having it because it's so different for people. It shows up different for everyone. And it's good to kind of see how that disorder shows up so you have a good understanding of, if you have it or not.
Okay, I love that take. It really does help because even with like I said, OCD, so many people have different takes on it, or there really is. But it's cool seeing oh yeah, I might struggle with this because it really is obsessive. Really defining terms really does help, especially with everything. But I really enjoyed this interview today. It was good overall, and I'm glad we kind of debunked some things and really talked more about and give some defining terms to a lot of things. So once again, I'm Madison Mays.
I'm Sophia Lee.
Brought to you by Cloudcast Media.
Today we talked with Chris Trondsen about some myths surrounding mental health, OCD, eating disorders, mental health in general.
More. And we hope you have some fun and don't be afraid to explore the uncontrollable.